Hello and welcome back to another Magic the Gathering draft video. It's Al here with you. This is how to draft MTG. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you a quick little technique I use to keep up to date with formats as they evolve, especially when I haven't been playing in a little while, which is what happened to me recently. So I want to show you this quick technique. And before I do that, I'll remind you to please click like and subscribe if you enjoy these videos, and leave a comment if you have any questions or comments. If you're interested in coaching, you can reach out to me directly, howtodraftmtg@gmail.com. That's a great way to support the channel directly as well. Let's get into it. Here we go. So we use everyone's favorite tool, 17lands.com, 17lands.com. Awesome site. Check them out. Support them. They do great work. First thing we always want to do when we're looking at 17 lands is go to format color ratings and just quickly scroll down the bottom here and just see the average win rate here of a 17 lands user is 55.6%. So that's going to inform all the sort of things that we're taking away from this data. If a card is winning above this amount, 55.6, that's a good indication that it's doing well in the format. If it's below 55.6, that's an indication that it's not doing as well in the format. So just keep that number in mind. Now, most of you probably know this already, but if you don't, you can just pop over under Analytics to Card Ratings. It's going to show you all the cards in Neon Dynasty Premier Draft. We are talking about Neon Dynasty today, if I didn't mention that already. And there's a whole slew of data here. We're going to just sort of clear all this away because it's just way too much to look at. And we're just going to look at Ever in Hand, which gives us our game in hand win rate, which is sort of the blunt instrument to sort of tell you how well a card is doing in the format. And we can, of course, sort by game in hand win rate. And so generally speaking, in a format like Neon Dynasty, there was a time when you could reliably get really good uncommon sagas pretty late in the pack, and it was worthwhile to draft multicolor and just sort of play all these amazing sagas you got past, or force green. I made a video early on saying how great green was, and it was, and you could force it and you would get cards like Beseiju, Reach the Skyward, and Spinning Wheel Kick, and Kappa Tech Record. You'd get these super late in packs, and you could green or green-black and do really, really well. That's no longer the case. People know about green. A lot of people are taking green cards. If you start with a green card, which I'm loath to do these days, I will sort of kind of soft avoid green, actually, for the most part in this format. If you start with a green card, it's very easy to sort of get punished and not get past those great uncommons, which is what makes those green decks tick. You're going to be left with a deck full of commons, which are not quite as good. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here, but let's say we haven't been playing for a while, and we sort of noticed that our old strategies aren't working as well. What we might do in a situation like that, especially in a situation like this where we're not seeing as many uncommons coming around late, is let's just have a look at just the common cards, okay? And let's take a color like green, for example, that we were talking about, okay? And we can see that Tamiyo's Safekeeping is the top game in hand win rate, green common at 58.4%. But what we can do is we can take this a step further and actually adjust the timeline here. And right now it's tracking from December of last year till now. Well, lots changed in the format. So why don't we start in March of this year, go to the current day, April 4th, and see how things might have changed. And I don't know if you caught that there, but if we go back to December, there's some higher win rates here, 57, 57, 57, 57. All of a sudden, when we go to March, it's starting to drop off a little bit, 56, 56, 56. So some of these cards are not performing as well, and that's an indication that green has sort of taken a downtick. And another thing that you may notice in doing so is that Tamiyo's Safekeeping was not one of the top green commons, if I recall correctly, early in the format, but now all of a sudden it's jumped to the top of the list. So what I would encourage you to do is take note of something like that and try to come up with a reason why that might be the case. And for me, I might say something like, well, the format used to be about all, drafting all sagas, everything's a 2-for-1, multicolor control, big sort of end game style decks. And as those decks became more and more diluted in the draft, people knew they were good and they started taking all these sagas, and it becomes really hard to draft those decks. The format has become more about 2-color focused strategies, and getting a huge blowout for a single mana in combat or against a removal spell with something like Tamiyo's Safekeeping is now way more important, because the overall power level of decks is less than it was at the start of the format when people were sort of exploiting all the sagas. You're going to have a deck with a lot more sort of scrappy, mid-level playable cards in it. So something like Tamiyo's Safekeeping, when the games are closer, when there's a sort of a more slight margin between winning and losing, having a spell like this can be a huge impact at just a single mana. Okay, so the second thing I want to sort of expand on this, and you can actually filter by deck. So let's look at black-green, and we can reset the color to just be neutral. And we can see, again, we're just looking at the commons, because everybody kind of knows what the good uncommons are at this point. So I think the commons are a really good litmus test for what is reliable in the draft, okay? So the commons in black-green over the last month. So black-green, we can see, still doing pretty well here. The black commons are doing the best. Tamiyo's Safekeeping, again, super important, which wasn't sort of the style of this deck early on. And something like Harmonious Emergence has moved up. So again, that's sort of, if I were just using my own analysis here, I would say, Harmonious Emergence has become a little bit more important, because streamlined 2-color, a little bit more aggressive style decks are what you need to be doing in order to win games. You cannot rely on always picking up these sagas. Okay, so, and again, we could just sort of take it at a glance. 59, 58, 58, 58, 57. So the deck is still solid. Let's look at a deck like blue-black at common, okay? And look at these numbers. 63, 61, 61, 60, 60, 60, 60. So going deep down the roster here of the commons that are played in blue-black, we can see that especially recently, over the last month, blue-black has been doing a lot better than black-green, which was originally the format's top deck, at least in my opinion. I know in a lot of folks as well, from the content I was watching and from the stats. Now we can sort of see that the blue-black deck, especially at common, is performing much better than the black-green deck. And that kind of makes sense, because again, the black-green deck was based around the good sagas. Life of Toshiro, you don't see that coming around anymore. Boseiju, Reaches Skyward, Kapatek Record, you don't see these cards late. Blossom Prancer, you never see Blossom Prancer late. So what that leads me to want to do is look for a deck that I can reliably draft at common, and blue-black has been one of those decks. So we can just see over the past month, the win rates have increased here. Okay, so this is just one example, right? And I encourage you to use this data not as, a hard and fast, this is absolutely what's true sort of way, but I sort of like to think of it as a compass that sort of points you in a direction. And you can say, okay, well, what's going on with blue-black here? It looks like it's, been performing a little bit better. Let me try drafting the deck. Let me see how these cards perform. Let me sort of try and figure out why Okiba Reckoner Raid is doing so well, why Virus Beetle is doing so well. Well, in fact, Virus Beetle is doing super well because if you start on the play, again, this is my own analysis, if you start on the play, you get Virus Beetle out on turn 2, you get an attack in, and your opponent doesn't block either because they have a 1 toughness creature and they don't want to trade, or they don't have a creature at all, and you get to pick it up with a Moon Circuit Hacker. This is another card that's moved up a bunch in game in hand win rate over the last little while. Then you get to replay the Virus Beetle on turn 3 and make them discard again. So, something like that, just recognizing, these are two cards that fit quite well together and work really well together. So you can take this one step further. I just want to show you one really quick other thing here. Again, these are very basic sort of data points. So, and I'm not a data specialist or analyst, but this is just something that sort of points me in the direction of, here's what you might want to try since your main strategy hasn't been working for you. I'm talking about myself. My main strategies were not working anymore, so I had to try something new. If we click Seen here, ALSA, this is Average Last Seen At. This gives you an indication of when you can expect to see, how late in the draft can you expect to see certain cards, okay? So Keep Your Reckoner Raid, most people know this is one of the best commons in the set. So you're not going to see it past pick 3 most of the time. That makes sense, right? But sometimes there's a little bit of exploitability here. So if we look at suit up, which is winning 60.5% of the time in blue-black, you can see this on average pick 7, which means that some of the time it's even going to wheel, right? You might see it pick 9, pick 10 on the second time around the pack has come around. So let's say my opening pack has a Keep Reckoner Raid and suit up in it. I can think to myself, all right, well, I'm going to take the Reckoner Raid because, it's one of the best commons in the set. It's very flexible. It's cheap. But I can make note, hey, suit up's in the pack as well. And on average, according to 17 lands, I can expect this to potentially wheel, come back, pick 9. And, in my own experience of drafting, I have seen that happen a fair bit. I've seen suit up, pick 9, 10, 11. So seeing that in the pack and sort of knowing it's there can inform the picks I'm making from my first pick, saying, okay, if I am going to go down a Black Blue Ninjas sort of route in this draft, there was that suit up in the first pack I saw that could come around again, and that could sort of be a tiebreaker in some of the picks I'm making. So average last seen at really powerful. And on that same token, Tamiyo's Safekeeping, average last seen at 6.78. It's the top winning green common. So there might be a little bit of exploitability right there as well. If you see Safekeepings in your early picks, you might say to yourself, I could probably wheel this. Maybe I need to, maybe I want to take the green card that's in this pack and build the style of deck that will be rewarded by Tamiyo Safekeeping, which is, again, more of a 2-color focused, beat down, pressure your opponent style deck rather than what we started off in the format drafting, which was more sagas, 2-for-1s, multicolor control. Okay, so we'll leave it there. That's just what I wanted to show you today. I didn't invent this approach by any means. I know a lot of people do this, but I hope it's helpful to you. If it is, please like and subscribe as always, and leave a comment, and we will see you very soon for another video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.